Work session is an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion. There's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. First item is the discussion of the formal agenda. And we'll first start with tonight's agenda. And do we have fellow commissioners on? Commissioner Wakua. Welcome, Commissioner Wakua.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here.
Okay, we'll kind of look over the items on the work session. Any questions about those? Any questions on the regular meeting agenda?
Chair, just want to make a note that there's an amended agenda.
Okay. And we're going to be adding items 11A and 11B for amendments number 9 to the OHA, IG, and county provider agreement for community health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. Okay, so we'll be adding items 11A and 11B. Any other?
No.
And that's going to be on the consent calendar?
So
Yeah. So it's on the business. Okay.
So,
Got it.
so there'll be a new business agenda section.
Perfect. Okay. Let's look ahead to our rolling agenda going out through December 3rd. Do we have any comments or questions on those?
Chair, just wanted to mention that on October 8th, right now, we don't have any agenda items for the work session. So after tonight, we'll probably get a clearer sense if there's anything that we need to schedule time on. So we might sometime after tonight decide to go ahead and
Whether we
want to cancel that.
cancel work session, we still have the regular.
Yeah, we'll still have the regular. And then I just want to make the point that on October 15th, we'll be doing a financial update, which I'll be talking a little bit about tonight.
Okay.
But Andy, our finance and budget director, will be here to talk about that.
Super. And we do have our finance committee members. Are they invited to that?
Or
Budget committee?
budget, yes. Yeah, we will send out.
Courtney, you got anything? Commissioner Wakula, any questions? Okay. Let's move on to the planning commission applicant interview on page 3. And the other center, the development.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. So tonight we have an interview the board of a planning commission applicant from District 5. This would be to replace Mike Magyar, who submitted his resignation in May, and his term will expire on June 30th, 2026. We did do some advertising, and at the direction of your board, all of our other candidates were within incorporated areas, so we're pulled this candidate forward for your consideration. Depending on your interview tonight, then we would schedule the formal appointment for October 8th. And I do know that Mr. Carmichael is here in person, so if you would like to come on, welcome. And
Thank you.
I will give you my seat.
Wayne Carmichael, welcome. Thanks for being here.
County Manager, Commissioners, audience, thank you.
And what we have done in previous interviews, we have a couple of questions and then we allow you to say, and then we would like to kind of a summary.
Sure.
First question is, why are you interested in serving on the planning commission? What is your understanding of the legal role of the planning commission? Any financial conflicts of interest or ethical requirements of the position?
Well, thank you. Well, I guess the best way to start that would just be to, my statement on the application pretty much gives my reason for desiring to serve on this commission. As I've stated, it says, community service for elected, appointed, and volunteer entities comes with risks and benefits, but on balance is an important part of being a good citizen. I do not have direct experience with state and local planning and permitting, but my service on other boards has certainly allowed me to be part of that process. I do feel that I have enough experience and willingness to be a successful contributor to the county's planning process, one that will serve the county commissioners' goal and obligations to the citizens of Clatsop County and Oregon. So that was basically my application. As I understand, maybe the only one that was unincorporated. I guess I wasn't fully appreciative of, unincorporated members and incorporated members. But I'm pleased that you're trying to spread out the input from the county. Obviously, my area, I was also that District 5 for the soil and water conservation. And so I'm somewhat familiar with the fact that it is probably the largest area. And I noticed that you potentially not tend to split up those districts based on population, because the populations are very much the same across those areas. To your other question, I did just jot down a few things so that I could sound coherent. Why are you interested in serving? What is your understanding? I think the best way to explain that would just be to say that I have read and signed the Clatsop County Committees and Council's statement of roles and responsibilities. Therefore, I must agree with that. I have also read the Clatsop County bylaws and agreed with their scope of responsibility. Those scope of responsibilities are roughly 4 items, which are in the handout that Gail sent me. So probably the more important one is, how would you define and support ecologically sustainable economic development, which was kind of a question that I appreciate because my background is in biology, microbiology, environmental toxicology is my professional training. So I guess whenever you put the word environmental in something, that sort of perks me up. So I basically broke that sentence down into a definition, and I'll just leave it at that. A definition for ecologically sustainable economic development would be the definition, environmental component of sustainable development is basically that component. Sustainable development is defined as economic development without depletion of natural resources. And my personal take on that is that I would say that in the areas of ag, forestry, fishing, development, I try to take a balanced view. And I learned a bit of that on soil and water conservation as well as others. I'm also board member of the Oregon Lake Association. So that's where my background comes. And then finally, I would simply say by definition that the environment includes the surroundings and conditions under which people, plants, microbes, and animals live. So that's probably the best way I can define. I do try to take a balanced view with an academic perspective.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Can I ask where you were a professor?
In Ohio,
In Ohio
State University. Actually, my undergraduate degree though is from Oregon State.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Bees.
I graduated with the Centennial class in '69.
Oh, really?
So, but no, I was an academic professor, pre-medical science and math in aquatic biology, toxicology, and pertinent here. When I moved out here, I got brought into, what's all that green stuff in your lakes, Cullowhee.
Yeah.
So I have experienced that and worked with, county and state and national in that area. So I'm fairly familiar with, with the environment.
Yeah.
I also own 140 acres of coast range.
I do.
And we're in the process of a 3rd year now on a NOAA grant will restore the salmon stream. So we, again, balance sustainable management. Okay.
Do
Thank
you have
you.
any questions?
Thank you for.
Commissioner Wakua, do you have any questions? Thank you again. Appreciate your comment, and yes, we're very glad to have a representative from District 5 applying for the position. It is exactly what we're looking for, is to have a broad representation of the entire county. And certainly an impressive resume to boot. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You certainly welcome to stay if you want, or we'll move on to the next item, which is the consolidation of public health and juvenile into a single department. Page 15. Ms. Kelly,
This is
of
me.
course, you.
Yeah. Stuck with me, sorry.
All right, Don.
Chuck Freeland, members of the board. This is a topic that we originally brought up during the budget process, so it's not new. It's something that has actually been implemented, but I think because we have an administrative ordinance that we'll have to actually update, I wanted to come and have another conversation with your board about the whys and the wherefores and kind of the underpinning challenges that the county is facing. What I want to start off with is just recognizing that every county in Oregon is facing financial challenges and financial distress. Clatsop County is one of those counties. Every county has addressed those challenges uniquely. Some have implemented furloughs, some have implemented layoffs, some have, searched for new revenue sources. Our approach was twofold. We did search for additional revenue with the TLT, which thanks to your board's leadership and hopefully the next legislative session, a little bit more flexibility. We have addressed one of our revenue challenges. But we did not do the others because at the very fundamental level, this county needs to provide services. And so services are the most important thing. So as money gets tight, we have to look at some alternate opportunities to reduce expenditures while we still look for additional revenues. And one of those areas that we've been focusing on is really what I call the administrative overhead of the organization. I want to maintain the services and the staff that go with providing direct services to the public. That's what I think the board's priority has been. That's what my priority is as the county manager, because these challenges, which I'm going to read through them, and I won't go into any more detail than your board wants me to, but the challenges include a growing number of unfunded mandates by the federal and state government, reduced and inadequate funding for many of the county's traditional core services, shifting state and federal priorities, structural caps on property tax growth, revenue preemptions, which one good example of that is recording fees, federal and state regulations, FEMA BIOP, HCP, land use regulations, etc. Inflation, and then cost of healthcare and our retirement system. These are real headwinds. I mean, and they are a generational challenge to local governments. AOC is talking now a lot more about revenue options. There'll be statewide conversations, which I think is a good place to start. Obviously, there's a local component to this. We have to do everything we can locally to retain services at the same time reduce expenses. And so just as a little reminder, because this wasn't that long ago, but back in the beginning of the 24-25 fiscal year, we were anticipating a deficit, meaning our expenditures were going to exceed our revenues in the general fund by $1 million. That was at the beginning of the 24-25 fiscal year. You probably remember the conversations that we had with the budget committee that year. What the commitment from myself and from staff was that we would do everything we could to reduce that $1 million deficit by the end of the year. And so we did that, and the final deficit was in the 690,000 range. So we reduced that by about 30%. Knowing deficit spending cannot be an ongoing, perpetual financial strategy, even though we are sitting on right now about 36% fund balance, which is way above what the board's goal level is. We have to sit on that because of all the uncertainty. This deficit spending had two stops. So in 25-26, we put together a budget that at the end of the year, 25-26, there was anticipated, and there still is, anticipated to be a slight surplus. So 25-26, which is the fiscal year that we're in right now, we budgeted for, and we still anticipate having our general fund revenues exceed our general fund expenses, but by a very small margin. Not going further into the reserve, but not growing the reserve at the same time. Part of what we discussed through the budget process was that we had limited options at the local level. We either generate new revenues, which includes full cost recovery. We reduce staffing levels, which we approached through vacant positions with the goal of really minimizing administrative overhead, not reducing services and service levels. As a very last option, you reduce services and service levels. We're still a growing community. We have a lot of community needs. Reducing services and service levels, I think, should be the last option. So through all that, we ended up eliminating 6 general fund vacant positions and 1 equivalent special fund. So we reduced staffing levels by 7 staff. Some of the examples, I won't go through all of them, because not all of them were really management level, but they were all vacant. So one of the things that we did is we reorganized the natural resources team by eliminating the vacant natural resource manager position. We reorganized the communications team by eliminating a vacant PIO position. And then we reorganized the public health and juvenile department into a consolidated department structure with 2 discipline-specific divisions by eliminating a vacant public health director position. So we had to reorganize a number of different functions as part of the fiscal year 25-26 budget. The reason why I'm here talking about the public health and juvenile consolidation is because it's the only one that would require the actual formal creation of a new department in the administrative code. The administrative code, isn't always up to date because codes don't change with what happens in an organization, but our goal is to have the administrative code reflect how the organization is actually structured. So when we talked about public health and juvenile, the goal was the same. We had a vacancy in a director. We needed to reduce the administrative overhead because the reality is the state funds that fund public health are going to be constrained. The state is in $1 billion budget hole right now. And when we just look at, and you talk to the state economists and you talk to other economists, we're in for a challenging when it comes to income tax revenue, which is what the state is primarily funded by. And so you have this very difficult choice of, do you reduce services and service levels, or do you organize yourself different to really take advantage of the few dollars that you're getting to have it be service oriented? So that is what we have focused on. The consolidation, so the elimination of the 1 position between 24-25 and 25-26 reduces overall county expenditures by $230,000. So that $230,000 is real dollars. And so what we did is we took the juvenile director position, because it was a director level position. We made that position the director of Health and Human Services, which is a consolidated department. We took the deputy public health director and we made that into the public health division manager. So The public health division manager reports to the director, but the public health division manager manages public health. It's not unlike what you see with OHA. OHA is a large organization. They have a director, then there's a public health division. They have a director. They also have a Medicaid division. They have a behavioral services division. Each of them have their own director. So the public health division manager serves as the LPHA for the county and is the manager of public health, but they report to the department director. There's actually many counties that do it the same way, that have all little different variations about what fall underneath that umbrella, but includes Washington County, Clackamas County, Marion County, Tillamook, Lincoln, Benton, Jackson, Deschutes, Lynn, Yamhill, Coos, and others. So it's not a unique, organization structure. And I think likely as money gets tied everywhere, it'll be a more common, even in some of the smaller counties, because literally you only have so many levers you can pull when you're trying to deal with these issues. So the savings, so previously public health, which is state funded, paid 100% of the public health director salary. The general fund paid for the juvenile salary. So now the general fund is paying for 50% of the HHS director, and public health is paying 50%. So each of them is benefiting about $115,000 each from the reduction of the $230,000 for not filling the public health director position. This is not something that is done because we don't value the services. It's because we actually do. It's because for us to maintain services and service levels, these are the kinds of decisions that the county is going to have to make going forward. And I can't say that there's not going to be other ones that are going to be in the next budget process in other areas. Because again, it's, my job is to make sure that the county is organized in a way that's efficient and effective. And while I'd love to support a lot of different organizational structures, financial availability is going to dictate how we look. And so, what we have done is that we are ready to come back to your board and start the ordinance process to just identify a new department. We're also going to clean up some other departments that are currently listed in there that aren't departments, like administrative services. But we would like to bring that to you. There have been times within the county's history that they did have a variation of this Department of Health and Human Services. Ultimately, I think creating the department will provide further consolidation opportunities. And I'm just going to throw out a couple of examples, but that could be behavioral health services contracts. It could also be veteran services contracts. Having those within a department structure may make sense. We'll take our time and make sure that that does make sense. But this will allow us to have more flexibility as we inevitably have to maneuver around challenges that we can't even foresee right now. The good news is that we are sitting on about 36% fund balance in the general fund. The goal is 20. At the end of next year, if everything plays out the way we hope, we'll be a little bit above that. But we haven't seen the real impacts of the HCP. We don't know what's going to happen with the FEMA buyout. That will impact potentially growth and improvements to property. And as you know, our largest general fund revenue is property taxes. And 3% growth is not sufficient. And then if you don't have new construction, and if you don't have improvements, that 3% is a true static number. If with your board's concurrence, we will bring this, to a future board meeting to start the process. But it's already in the budget. We've already contemplated this. But I did want to talk about it again and make sure that your board had all your questions answered if you had any. So thank you. And I'm happy to answer any.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate the rollout of this. I know we've talked about this for long. So there are no surprises. We have also attacked, as you mentioned, revenue and done what we can on that end. We've been in Salem, had a presence in Salem to try to do whatever we can, create benefit and advantage for the county. And then, of course, this is a natural consolidation. It seems to make a lot of sense. The folks on the outside were saying, when you're cutting public health, it does went through a pandemic, and what happens if you have to ramp up again? But I do think that this does seem to really lay out and make a lot of sense for what we're doing.
Yeah, and just to address that, Chair, you know, I think this would actually position us better if that happened again. The reality is that having more people and having public health strongly connected to the corporation, to the organization is vital. And we found during the pandemic that when that's not as strong as it needs to be, it's a bigger challenge.
Right.
And so I think in the long run, this will actually be good for the organization. It'll be good for public health. Because I mean, I've been working with public health in my entire 36 years. You know, most of that over in Washington County. But we have a huge commitment to it. I mean, we saw how important that it was during COVID, but we see how important it is every day. And so there's no lack of a commitment. It's actually our commitment to public health that is allowing us to look at what are the options to really maximize the scarce and insufficient state funding for some of the priority services that we need.
Yeah.
So
I really appreciate the strategic approach and the balance that we're achieving. That's, yeah, I'm supportive.
I mean, we began this, I mean, we saw this coming, I think, probably a lot sooner than other counties did. And we began pivoting a long time ago. And I am so grateful that we are staying service-minded in our approach. Because we haven't seen the impact, the full impact of what is, you know, happening to us with the habitat conservation plan. We don't know what that will look like in 5 years for us. And so I see that 36% as our runway that we keep talking about. We created it ourselves, and because nobody else was going to help us. And I appreciate the forward thinking of our board, but our staff also, of kind of doing it the Clatsop County way. We're going to do it ourselves. And
I think the board needs to take credit. I mean, we were one of the few counties last year that wasn't in a deficit spending going into this fiscal year. I mean, we were at the end of last fiscal year, but we budgeted not to be in a deficit spending, where most counties had the opposite. Because some of the deficits were so big. I mean, there was counties that were dealing with $20+ million in deficits. And, you know, I think one of my fears moving forward real quickly is that the unfunded mandates are something that we're going to have to reconcile. We don't know exactly what they're going to look like, but as the state funding gets that much tighter, there may be programs that are fundamentally state programs that they're not funding enough. I mean, we had some almost, you know, sacred understandings with the state about certain services and how they were going to be funded. And they're not living up to them now. And I can only imagine what the future might look like if the economy continues to falter and there's less federal money coming into the pipeline. So
is there a lever to push back those mandates and let the state handle them?
So it's a yes. So and in many of them, the answer is yes. So when it's a fundamental state program, so like community corrections is an example. I mean, you have the ability to give community corrections back to the state. Most counties have opted not to do that because the state has made some efforts to try to create more equal funding. But because you would rather have that be a local program. But counties can give it back. And if the state got to the point where they diminish that funding level to a certain point, I would probably recommend that, only because if we don't, it will reduce officers, deputies on the street, jail beds open, and other critical county general fund services, because it's the general fund that really provides all the core services. The state, there's a picture it's a diagram that AOC has, and it describes the county programs, the state shared programs, and then the state programs. There's a lot of things that fall into the state shared programs, and some of those, there was an agreement about how they were going to be funded. And there was an agreement that if they don't get funded a certain way, the counties could revert those back to the state. So there are those programs, and we certainly hope that that doesn't happen, and it's not our goal to have those happen. And everything we're doing now in terms of how we manage the organization financially will hopefully head off those kinds of decisions for the board. But it just depends on how bad it gets, because the state's getting a lot less federal money too. They're going to have to make a lot of hard decisions about backfilling lost federal funds at the same time that they're getting less revenue. So there's less money to pass down to the counties. So.
Well, the 36% reserve runway isn't by accident, and that is years and years of conservative budgeting and this county manager, Monica, take a lot of credit for that. And Sullivan, finance director, and of course, even well, I mean that really has provided us the opportunity to have some flexibility and to have these long-term discussions about how we can best weather the storm. So kudos to everybody. And Commissioner Mayor, I want to ask Commissioner Walker.
And just for clarification, I'm a big believer in, local control and community knowing itself the best and being able to serve its people the best. So I would never want to push our services back onto the state, because I feel like we by far can serve our own people better with more knowledge. But just like as a forecasting, conversation. My most recent graph, we discussed this a while back, showed a forced departure on our timberlands, and within 5 to 10 years, receiving less than half of the 80 million board feet. So putting us a little above 30 million board feet for the county. And so I just want to put it out there. I would like us over the next few years to really look at how can we be less dependent on those dollars and have them be beneficial, not dependent.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of discussions that would seem like they're totally not related to this discussion, but they really are. And I'm just going to bring up one as an example, the 911 consolidation.
Yeah.
You can form a lot of different government structures for this 911 system. Some of those government structures could include the ability to have a tax base to provide that very fundamental service. I mean, this service it's essential for the community. Right now we have 2 PSAPs. We'd like to get down to 1. How we manage that from a government perspective could be part of what allows us to have some relief on some of the general fund pressures of public safety. TLT is part of the relief, but I think when you look at the magnitude of those timber dollars, it's going to take a lot of different smaller tranches of funds to get to where we're not as dependent upon them, or the state through the small favor group.
Which is going to be meeting again here this fall.
We'll have to galvanize around a solution that will help counties with offset revenue. So I think there's so much in play here, but the good news is that we are having the right discussions with our partners, with the state. We are very active legislatively. And we're gonna keep on top of it. But I just think it's a sobering thing to really understand how challenging it's gonna be. So.
And to make note, the small table group is resurrecting, I guess you could call it. I'm not sure. I was just informed that this fall, winter, because it is now fall, we will be meeting again. I'm not sure what we're gonna say to each other, but it will be a meeting pre-session, so.
Well, yeah, communication can't hurt.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wakula, did you have anything?
Thank you, Chair. I had a lengthy discussion with County Manager yesterday about this. Generally speaking, I think this exemplifies the notion of being the greatest good for the greatest number. It's unfortunate. I mean, we have to scale back, I think, to grow and protect what we have. And I agree with what Commissioner Banks said as far as keeping this proximal to us. And I appreciate the work that goes into it. I understand it puts more work on the plates of some. And I mean, we're kind of seeing this across the field, and we'll probably have to see more of it before we see less of it, unfortunately. But I don't think it's a bad decision ultimately, and I'm on board with it. So that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Wakula. So this will come back to us.
So we're gonna come back with an agenda item to have an ordinance to amend the administrative code, which we did a couple years ago when we created the Department of Emergency Management. So it'll be a 2-hearing process, and we'll be starting that probably in October sometime and try to get it done by the end of the calendar year. So.
Sounds good. Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to the environmental health review. Kathy Broughton, Health and Human Services Director. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. And the rest of the board that's here. Appreciate it. So one of my newly acquired responsibilities is environmental health, and one of the things that I was asked to do is not only touch on it, but also explain the challenging and difficult and good work that staff are doing. I was hoping that Andy is still there. He's at a conference. Our staff are at a conference in Bend this
Yeah, I
week.
saw him up there. Just
He might pop in. I'm hoping he does because
I'm sorry. Can you hear me? That's
Yeah,
my computer died on me, so I'm on my cell phone now, and I apologize.
No, it's no problem. So I asked Andy to participate in case there was a detailed question. My knowledge is growing in environmental health, but it is not at the level that Andy obviously is at. I would consider him the subject matter expert for any questions specific to inspections or something along those lines. So what is environmental health? And I should probably click through these slides. Maybe. Am I gonna take part of this? It probably sat there too long for us. All right, perfect, thank you. So I'm gonna speed this up a little bit. We're gonna go to page 3, which is why public health or why environmental health is important, and kind of the idea of public health and how it fits into or not public health but environmental health and how it fits into public health. So it's one of the founding principles of public health is environmental health. And so through modernization, it's one of our main focuses. It's one of the reasons, one of the things that we have to report back to OHA is how we are incorporating environmental health within public health.
Yeah.
So, it's an important function. Everything we do within environmental health is according to statute. It's not just a made up science or rule that staff are utilizing. It's all according to statute. So who is our team? This is challenging for me to flip both, but I have my notes on my paper.
Do you want
So-
me to be a part of that?
No, that's. I just have to remember that I'm not left-handed. So our team, we have 2.8 staff, not including myself. I am currently their direct supervisor. And so Meredith is that might say 1. Awesome, thank you, Jill. That says health specialist 1. I was corrected, it's a 2. Meredith is our longest standing employee in environmental health. Been with us for 12 years. Andrew, or Andy, as I call him, he's the one that's appearing by phone, and he's our most current inspector. And recently, he spent a week with someone from the state of Oregon to receive what's called the standard. They followed him around and did so many inspections. They do their inspection, he does his inspection, and they compare and contrast. And if he hits it within a certain percentage, then he is considered the standard. He just accomplished that in the month of September, which is exciting, because that gives us the ability to train new staff that might come aboard. So you'll see as we get through these slides, we have a lot of permits that need inspection. And so that'll be one of those. Having Andrew being the standard will be very helpful for us moving forward. Hannah is our permit tech. She's the newest staff in environmental health, and she's been great. I'll just put it that way. She's been very helpful. She obviously, or not obviously, she's the one that helped me put together this PowerPoint. So that's
It's obvious.
yeah, it's very obvious that I did not.
Oh,
But-
God, man.
So at any rate, she's a phenomenally quick learner, and she's been a great addition to our team, and we're excited to see how we can utilize her skills moving forward, not only within environmental health, but also supporting public health. Our public health has various needs at the front desk, and it's always nice to have people that can support a front desk function. And so that when people come in from the general public that are in genuine need, we have someone there, a warm face to greet them. So she's working on that as well. So inspection requirements or inspector requirements, they have to have a bachelor's degree. They have to have training experience. And they go through an examination process to ensure that they meet the requirements. And then, of course, continued education. It's not your average person that just can be hired off the street. They have to have an extensive amount of education and experience to jump into doing inspections. So this is a graph. It doesn't give us all the numbers, but it's roughly 600 permits. You have RVs and camps, which is 14, or organizational camp and RV camps, which is 14, there's 2 RV camps there. Oh, I'm reading, never mind. So organizational camp is right around 13, and then RV camps is 14. The majority of our permits are food service facilities. Each permit, that's not just one inspection, right? So there could be literally multiple inspections per permit, especially if it's a new restaurant. So there's an inspection before opening, there's an inspection shortly after opening, and then there's your regular inspections throughout the year. So one of the challenges that I noticed first off is, how do we, since this is a department that is run by the revenue from those permits, how do we maximize the value of each permit? And so both Andy and Meredith, with the help of Hannah, are looking at ways to where we can be strategic in our planning around when we do inspections, how we do inspections, and we're not going to Cannon Beach and then to Napa, right? We're being strategic about the revenue that each permit allows us and how can we maximize it. Maximize that revenue. So this breaks down what is on this graph. The next slide does. And I apologize. I'm also trying to be cognizant of the time, so I don't want to get too in the weeds on each one of those specific things, but it's essentially food, pool, and lodging. That's how it was explained to me, right? So if you have a pool or a sauna or a pool or a spa, you need an inspection. If you have a hotel, you need an inspection. If you have a restaurant, food truck, they need to be inspected. And so Hannah does a great job of maintaining those requests when they come in. And this is not just standing restaurants. This could be, you might even catch Monica Steele down there getting a temporary permit. For any temp event, you need to go in and get a permit to essentially run your food at an event. So I guess the challenges that we hope to alleviate that I'm looking at is, how can we be more efficient? We do quite a few temporary events, and each event typically has multiple vendors. And we're looking at ways we can engage conversations with our regular vendors, because there are challenges when staff go on a Saturday to do an inspection and people aren't ready for an inspection. And how do we, if there's 5 or 6, you can maybe skip one and go to the next because they're ready, but eventually and do that inspection. So we're thinking about ways to where we can engage those folks and try and again reduce the amount of time we have to be inconvenience to them, that they open on time, that the event goes off without a hitch. We hate having to not issue a permit the day of an event, and then an event doesn't have someone that can offer food for the people that they're anticipating to appear. So the next slide has our revenue breakdown. This is from 24-25, and this just essentially shows the breakdown of how much each one of those generates in revenue. And my note here is that, everyone that is funded or that works in this department is funded by those fees. You'll recall a few years back when we had a significant increase. This year we're going to maintain those smaller nominal, more cost of living driven fee increases so that there isn't a shock. We'll make sure that we kind of do our best with budget and finance to be strategic about those increases, because we know that will be a challenge for a lot of vendors. So food service overview, the next slide, this is where we kind of get to a snapshot of where we're lacking and where we're deficient and where we need to improve, right? This is partial year data. This doesn't give us all of the data. This is not quite a full 25 data. So the numbers, graph wise, they might not look great, but they're improving. But ultimately, there's only so much 1.8 inspectors can do. And so one of the things we are looking at, we did run a recruitment for a manager of environmental health. And we had a good candidate that declined. And I'm now feeling that was probably a blessing in disguise. We've done another round of interviews, and I have not selected anyone to take on that position at this time. one of the things we're considering doing is adding an additional inspector. As a better way to utilize those funds. It was going to be a working manager, the expectation that they participate and help with inspections. But I think at this time, our option of looking at, someone that can help support the inspection side of this department would be money well served or money well spent. I am not the food inspection or restaurant inspector scoring expert. That is Andy. And so there's the next 3 pages kind of go over the inspection scoring. I've talked to Andy about inspection scoring. It's not a short conversation. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I think the best thing to do is to maybe ask if there's any specific questions, or is there a desire for you guys to learn about the scoring of an inspection? The reason why I was asked, one of the reasons why I was asked to bring this before the board is there was some question about staff and their accuracy in scoring. Staff follow these flow charts. They don't, it's not choose your own adventure, right? Yeah. They are seeing what's in front of them and they're scoring it based on what they're seeing. Yeah. If there's one thing I think everyone can agree on is that our food inspectors, our restaurant inspectors should not cut corners. They should be very thorough. I think we all appreciate that in this room. Anyone who's ever eaten out, I think we appreciate that they're thorough and detailed in their inspection because it is potentially a matter of life and death. So we want to avoid that at all costs. So I guess at this point, I would ask Andy if he wants to have any conversation or offer any support around inspection specifically.
Andy?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Chair and members of the board. I'd be happy to talk about this subject. So yeah, pretty much every time a restaurant opens, they are required to go through a pre-opening inspection and plan review. That process can take anywhere from a week or 2. And then once they are open, we do an initial semi-annual inspection within a month of them opening. And then at that point, they're just on the schedule for a routine inspection every 6 months or so. When there are 3 types of violations, they're called priority violations, priority foundation violations, and core violations. It's basically a 5-pointer, a 3-pointer, and an unscored violation. Those would be the core ones. Those are things more like facility maintenance, less to do with food safety and more to do with just general cleanliness. Anything less than 70 out of 100 is a failure to comply. And when a restaurant fails to comply, they're required to go through additional re-inspections and then another complete full inspection within 45 days in order to bring them back into compliance. Excuse me. The closure, I guess, criteria are kind of related to the point system, kind of not. Technically, any restaurant can, or any priority or priority foundation violation can result in a closure if the violation can't be corrected on site during the inspection. Something like a refrigerator being out of temperature. If we can't discard all the food and move other food around, or otherwise use a different refrigerator, like for example, if a restaurant only has the one refrigerator, everything else about the restaurant can be great, but if their one refrigerator is out of temperature, then they need to close until it's fixed. And so that's, I guess, as far as closure goes. For failures to comply, that's when it gets a little more tricky getting them back into compliance. We do re-inspections based on the priority and priority foundation violations to correct any that weren't correctable during the initial inspection. And then once everything's corrected, we give them about a month to continue their operations, hopefully, staying in compliance based on those re-inspections. And then we do a complete inspection to completely reevaluate the restaurant and give them a new score. It's very, I guess, time-intensive process at that point. But like Kelly said, our main focus is to just make sure that everyone eating in the county is, given safe food.
No,
So,
thank you.
absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of going through and highlighting some of the process. And I remember there was this story, and so there was a link to go see all of the scores of the restaurant. I was struck by the workload. I mean, just so many restaurants, you're trying to do those semi-annuals, you're doing them twice a year. It's a tremendous amount of work. And so I applaud, our small staff being able to get through that. And we had a lot of high scores, a lot of restaurants that do very well at cleanliness. It was good to see a lot of the ones that I eat at. It's pretty.
Well, and I think it's important to know that, this is also work that at times can be, there can be arguments that can be heated. And so, staff know that, I've even attended some inspections just because, there might be a need to, and I'm planning to do one when Andy returns. There might be a need for just some additional support, another set of ears and eyes. But it's challenging work, and I have learned a ton from Andy and Meredith over the last few months, and I'll continue to learn, and I'm thankful for the work that they do.
And congratulations, Andy, on reaching this standard.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a tough one.
And Commissioner Bangs or Commissioner Wakua? Commissioner Wakua's got it. Commissioner Wakua.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for what you do. This is kind of one of those thankless jobs, I think, where unfortunately, you're kind of the bad guy. You're not there to necessarily always give great information, but you're serving a purpose and you're keeping us safe. I looked at your flow charts, your algorithms, whatever you want to call them. I'm not a food inspector, so I don't need to know those things, but I understand the idea of passing state inspections and county inspections. And so it's kind of a checkbox flow chart where either you get it or you don't. And if you don't, what are you doing about it? So thank you for what you do, and thanks for keeping us safe and providing quality care and food for our county and our visitors. So keep your head up. That's all.
Yeah, thank you. Commissioner. Any other comments? Any other questions? Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll go ahead and transition over to the dais here in a minute.
Choose your own adventure.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Clerk of the Board, can we have the roll call?
Chair Quila,
Here.
Vice Chair Bang. Here. Commissioner Wakua,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson.
And Commissioner Thompson is excused. Okay, we'll move on to the agenda approval. We have an amended agenda. We're adding items 11A and 11B for amendments number 9 to the OHA, IGA, and County Provider Agreement for Community Mental Health, Addiction Treatment, Recovery and Prevention, and Problem Gambling Services. So these will be business items after the consent calendar. Okay,
I move to approve.
we have a second?
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Yes,
what you.
Commissioner Webb.
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said last. You said something about a business item after.
These items, 11A and 11B, will be business items after the consent calendar.
Oh, sure. That's how they are on the agenda. Great. Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right,
I
do we have a second?
I have a second.
Oh, perfect, okay. Moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. First is a proclamation, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And we have Laura Parker, Juvenile Probation Counselor in Juvenile Department here. Welcome, Laura.
Hello, thank you. I work for the county as a juvenile probation counselor, but I'm also a member of the Domestic Violence Council for Clatsop County. And so I would like to read the proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
Oh, sure.
Would you like me to read it, or would you prefer?
If you want to go ahead and just introduce it. By
Perfect.
just kind of giving the information, and then we'll go ahead and,
That sounds
and-
great. Yeah,
yeah.
wonderful. Okay. The Domestic Violence Awareness Month started in October of 1987 and is an important month to recognize every year as domestic violence rates continue to rise and services are continued to be needed. I put some of the purple ribbons for Domestic Violence Awareness Month back here if anybody would like those for the month. And I want to thank the commissioners for recognizing this important issue. Thank you.
yeah, thank you very much, Laura. Do we have any comments or questions? You ready for a motion?
Ready for a motion. I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming October 1st, 2025 through October 31st, 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
Do we have
I
a second?
second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming October 1st, 2025 through October 31st, 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month and authorize the chair to read then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming October 1st, 2025 through October 31st, 2025 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas the first Domestic Violence Month was observed in October 1987, the same year that saw the initiation of the first national domestic violence toll-free hotline, and in 1989, Congress designated October as National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And whereas domestic violence is a pattern of assaultive and coercive behaviors, including physical, psychological, sexual and economic abuse, social isolation, and stalking that are used to maintain power and control over a person's intimate partner. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's dignity, privacy, security,
safety, and basic human rights. And victims should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need. And whereas 1 in every 3 women and 1 in 4 men in the United States experience rape, physical violence, and or stalking by an intimate partner in their lifetime, domestic violence is the largest cause of injury and homicide for women. And whereas approximately 15.5 million children are exposed to domestic violence every year, children exposed to domestic violence experience terror, isolation, guilt, helplessness, and grief, and have a higher risk of engaging in criminal behavior and substance abuse and becoming victims of crime. And whereas domestic violence impacts the health and well-being of our community, and whereas it is incumbent on every citizen to play a role in preventing and ending domestic violence. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim October 1st, 2025 through October 31st, 2025 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Clatsop County, and invites all community members and local agencies to join in this month of observance by speaking out against domestic violence, raising awareness, and supporting survivors. Dated this September 24th, 2025, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much, Laura. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And next is a resolution on Latin American heritage, and Norma Hernandez, Deputy Director of Consejo Español. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. Hi.
Thanks for being
I
here.
just want to say this year, it's always a theme for Hispanic Heritage Month. And this year is Collective Heritage, which is honoring the past and inspiring the future. And hopefully, I do have a wish that one day we will not need these proclamations, that one day it could be completely seamless, and we will not have those differences that we have to remind people of our neighbors and community. But thank you so much for honoring our Hispanic heritage today and doing a proclamation. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Norma. Appreciate you being here. Do we have any comments, questions? Are you ready for a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming September 15th, 2025 through October 15th, 2025 as Latin American Heritage Month, and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
We have
I second.
second?
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming September 15th, 2025 through October 15th, 2025 as Latin American Heritage Month, and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming the period from September 15th, 2025 through October 15th, 2025 to be Latin American Heritage Month. Whereas the period from September 15th through October 15th is recognized across the United States as a time to honor the histories, cultures, and contributions of Latin American communities. And whereas the people whose heritage traces to Mexico, Central and South America, the Caribbean, and other Latin American regions represent a vibrant and diverse tapestry of cultures, languages, and identities, including indigenous, Afro, Latinx, and non-Spanish speaking communities. And whereas the term Latinx or Latin is increasingly used by many to reflect a more inclusive and self-defined identity, acknowledging that the term Hispanic was originally created by the U.S. government and does not resonate with all members of our community. And whereas the United States has always drawn strength from the contributions of diverse peoples, and Latin American communities have played a vital role in shaping our national history. And whereas Latinx residents of Clatsop County enrich our region as entrepreneurs, educators, artists, public servants, and community leaders, and their cultural heritage strengthens the social and economic fabric of our county. And whereas we honor the resilience, creativity, and leadership of Latinx communities and affirm our commitment to equality, visibility, and celebration of all who call this region home. Now, therefore, the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim September 15th, 2025 through October 15th, 2025 as Latin American Heritage Month in Clatsop County, and we call upon all public officials, educators, and all residents to observe this month with meaningful ceremonies, educational activities, and community programs that celebrate the generations of Latinx individuals who have positively influenced and enriched our city, state, and nation. Dated this 24th day of September, 2025. Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much.
Thank
Norma.
you
Good
so
to
much.
see you.
Deeply appreciate it. Good to see you.
All right, we'll move to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person?
No, there are not.
All right, anyone here that would like to participate in public comment? All right, we'll go ahead and close business from the public and move on to the consent calendar. We had an opportunity to review the consent calendar. Bye-bye. Did we have any questions? Bye-bye. Any comments, questions about the consent calendar? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve.
I
Do
second.
we have a second? Okay, moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now we'll move on to commissioner reports, and we'll start with Commissioner Bangs.
I'm gonna keep it simple tonight. This week is 6th grade forestry tour week, so I've been having a lot of fun with middle school kids. So, that's right now what's on my agenda.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Commissioner Bangs. Commissioner Wakua?
Yeah, forgive me. Thank you, Chair. So, actually yesterday we had our quarterly CEDAR meeting. Let's see, what can I report back from that? So, kind of a lot of variation and information came out of it. Providence Seaside's CEO is actually relocating out to Hood River, so Rebecca reported off on that. They also just passed their OHA trauma level 4 certification survey that they had. So Providence Seaside is a trauma hospital now. They reported that unfortunately, due to some circumstances, the OB department is going to be closing at Providence Seaside, which I think has been kind of in the news lately. So many of us are aware of that already. The financial report for Cedar was fine. Everything looked good there. Oregon Housing reported, obviously we need more housing, so nothing really new there. I reported on the FEMA BIOP update, and with that, Cedar is also opting for option 1, and they are going to be submitting a letter on behalf of Cedar, I believe, to support option 1. We also gave them the letter from the Oregonians for floodplain protection, which our board has already endorsed. And so I'm not sure if they're going to sign that or deviate and create their own, but Cedar is embracing option 1 as well. Otherwise, it was kind of just a closure of summer from everybody. Seaside, hosted Hood to Coast. They had the biggest volleyball turnout ever. They mentioned that next year they're going to be going to 5 days. Seasides, I mentioned that the farmer market is all finished. That was very successful. For Warrenton, the fishing season is over. Harbor Master reported a significant amount of, I think they're up 75,000 this year. What else? Let's see.
What?
For Astoria as well, they're going to be hosting 4 Halloween events next month. So look forward to that. We have some events coming up with Hampton. Lindsay Davis talked about they're hosting the Trick or Treat Trail in Napa. Let's see what else. Tongue Point is still looking at some dredging options. And they did report that the College Board has an opening, and that opening will close on October 1st. So if anybody's interested in being on the College Board, please apply. Otherwise, I think that was about it. So yeah, our next meeting will be November 5th, and I'll report back after that.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Baku. I appreciate the report. Commissioner Webb?
I'm sorry. Yes, lots to report, actually. First of all, I'm not in my bedroom. I want you to know, because that's not what you're seeing. Because if I were in my bedroom, my dog would be on the bed. But I'm not. I'm in a hotel in North Bend, Oregon. Because tomorrow is one of my favorite events of the year, and I wish that more of our commissioners could join, because at these annual meetings, we often have commissioners, all the commissioners from a whole bunch of the coastal counties, and it's a tremendous learning experience. It really is. It's called the Economic Summit. And I think one of the things, especially for those like us who have recently completed economic plans, basically, for our counties. And it's wonderful to hear how similar the counties are to each other, and yet how many differences there are. And so when we go to it is led by David Gomberg. And I would actually suggest for my fellow commissioners that you go to the state legislator's website and sign on to Gomberg's communications, because he reports about what goes on in the legislature really, really well and really thoroughly, and kind of speaks our county language and when he does it. And so it's really, really informative. I'm looking forward to meeting with him tomorrow. The agenda here is jam-packed, and so I'll come back with lots of learnings. And as I say, to me, one of the things I love most, well, I like lots of stuff about this meeting. I always like getting together with other commissioners, because I always learn something from what's going on in the counties and from different forms of commission government. And it's so informative. It didn't feel so informative today as I was coming down I-5 and getting on 98 and coming across and getting to where I'm at the Coquille Casino, actually. It took them an hour and a half to figure out how to get me online. But that's okay, because, I'd love to say that. Okay, I'm not going to say anymore, because it would be judgmental. So anyway, okay, so there's that. The AOC District 7 meeting was, once again, I wish we do them once a year, usually in the early fall. And I wish we did them more often, because we have so much in common with Columbia and Tillamook and Lincoln counties that, oh my God, I hope I didn't leave anybody out, did I? 1, 2, oh. No, I don't think I did. Because we share so much. I'm on the word. No. Chair Quayle, what am I saying wrong? What?
Nothing.
Are you sure? Okay. Anyway, the Region 7 is really great because one of the things that happens at that meeting is that we got to get a lot of the AOC staff out to the meeting. And so they get more familiar with our region and our issues, and we get more familiar with them, which is really important because there's nothing better than be able to pick up the phone and know who to call at AOC for information or to get something done. And AOC, incidentally, always does a legislative summary every year. And I recommend to my fellow commissioners that if you haven't gotten it or looked at it, please look at it because it's worth keeping for a year or two because it's a detailed explanation of what happened with not all of the 3,500 bills that were introduced, but the ones that we counties care about. And it's just tremendously informative. It really is. The housing summit on Monday was wonderful. It was done by Colpack, and it was so informative. It was just filled with really quite. It was so good to hear what other counties are doing with housing. And I have to say that I was awfully proud of of uh, of all of the presentations that included what we're doing with housing. And I think I came away with the three most important things that I think that we're doing right. One of them is that we are very collaborative with our local governments. And I have to say that I don't think every other county is, but we are. And I think that's really important. I think it's really, really now ahead of us, Tillamook County, of course, put together a housing commission several years ago and hired somebody to staff it. And so, but our staffing of Alyssa Gertler, of course, has been wonderful, wonderful in our county. And we heard some great presentations about mass-produced timber, also pre-built timber housing that comes to us from other places in the way that a lot of manufacturing in America is happening, which is building larger units than we used to in manufacturing facilities and then trucking them to local areas. And it's happening in a lot of industries. And I think in the housing industry, it's pretty wonderful. But it was great. I will close with the fact that also, I think I was really happy to learn that Wiley Thompson, who is our regional extension director, sent you all their report that he presented at the AOC7 meeting about what's going on, what extension is doing in Clatsop County. And I always say, they're our local university, and they're gangbusters, and they're just wonderful. And I attended one of Amanda Gladdick's, who is our wonderful Sea Grant professor. I attended her, and you'll appreciate this, Chair Quayla, her tour of the Hammond Marina. That's your district that is you should be so proud of. I mean, those folks, and it's interesting because we don't see it. It's tucked away in a corner of our county. And I would recommend going out to that marina and taking a look at the size of the fishing vessels and the produce, which is in Wiley's report, I think. So and it was wonderful. It was just, Amanda is inspiring because she knows so much about the fishing industry and fishing science as well. And so it was a fabulous, if you ever get a chance to do a tour like that, do it, because she's just fabulous. And it was so much fun to actually talk to the guys who take the boats out and bring the fish back. So thank you. I think that's it.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Webb. I would just mention thanks to our county manager. I know that you've had communications with the city of Astoria, and we have less congestion on the sidewalks tonight, which is a positive thing. And I hope that we can continue to kind of make progress and try to enforce the code as far as what camping during the day should look like or not look like. So thanks again for your efforts there. And I know we're going to talk about it more in the future.
And Chair,
County Manager.
may I?
Yeah, Commissioner Wakua.
I'm sorry. I had an afterthought, and I wanted to give some kudos to Assistant County Manager Monica Steele. She was represented at the Cedar meeting as well, and I appreciate her presence there. We kind of are redundant to some extent, but she covered the other progress that the county has made, and I just appreciate all that the office does in representing us and helping facilitate our presence. So thank you, Assistant County Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Baku. I agree. That's the second kudos you got tonight, because I gave you one about the budget. County Manager.
Chair Quila, members of the board, this actually happened a couple weeks ago, but in talking to Chair Quila, I don't know that we ever mentioned it, but there was a ribbon cutting out at the out of this jetty, sorry, regarding the 6-year project that the Corps had been working on to refurbish the South Jetty, and it was a great event. Colonel Coswell was out there, as well as other dignitaries, and so it'll be a big relief for our roads not to have those large stones transported over them, but it's a significant conclusion to a very important project. Another is that we've discussed a lot about the FEMA BIOP. As your board's aware, the EIS deadline for comments is October 6th. We'll be sharing the draft with your board by the end of the week. So you can review a draft of the comments, and then obviously we'll submit them by October 6th. So try to give you some time to look at that and ask any questions that you might have. And then I just wanted to share that we had a great employee event today out in the lawn of the Flavel House. Thankfully, the weather was nice, but we had great food, great camaraderie, conversations with employees. Just an all-around great event. Just want to thank staff for participating and for those staff that planned and executed that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you, County Manager. Thanks for everybody for putting that together. And we'll move on to the business agenda. And these are two items that we added, 11A and 11B. 11A is Amendment 9 to the 2024-25 OHA IGA for financing and of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention, and problem gambling services. Amanda Revicek, our policy and management analyst.
Wonderful.
Right.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Chair, members of the board. This is for the approval of Amendment 9. This has to do with the IGA with OHA for the financing of the, so many acronyms, CMHP, which is the Community Mental Health Program Services. And so this has to do with the 6-month extension. That contract was set to expire in July, and so this would extend it through to December. So let me see if there's, I know we've talked about this a lot, so I'm just trying to see if there's anything new. So the reason why we're bringing this before your board today is when you approved the original agreement, it included authorizing the county manager to sign all subsequent amendments. However, Amendment 9, because it's 6 months worth of funding for services, that's a significant amount, so we're bringing it before your board again, or this amendment. And so OHA initially provided, so kind of to give some context for why this is happening now and not prior to July. So they initially provided Amendment 9 to the county in July. However, county staff identified identified incorrect funding allocations for several service elements. And since then, staff and CBH have worked with OHA to resolve these discrepancies. The attached version now reflects those corrected amounts. And on the agenda item summary, it also notes a few service elements that are not included in the extension and some details on that, which mostly have to do with separate IGAs that are for those specific services. The only substantive difference between Amendment 9 to the IGA and the next item that will come before your board, which is the amendment to the CBH, the county provider agreement, is just the total funding amount. And that Amendment 9 to the IGA reflects slightly higher total because the county retains funding for service element 1, which has to do with administrative costs.
Okay, thank you very much, Van. Do we have any questions or comments? All right, ready for a motion?
I move to approve Amendment 9 to the OHA IGA 026005 between Oregon Health Authority and Clatsop County, extending services through December 31st, 2025, and increasing the total contract amount by the $1,365,343.91, and authorize the county manager to sign the amendment.
I second.
Okay, moving second to approve Amendment 9 to the 2024-25 OHA IGA. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed?
Is Commissioner Webb?
Commissioner Webb, are you on?
Commissioner Webb is on. I'm sorry, I'm having a sneezing fit. My answer is aye.
Aye, okay. All right, motion carries. We'll move on to the 11B, which you mentioned already. You gave a summary of what the difference is. Are we ready for a motion?
So I don't have a motion. Is it okay to just move to approve the Amendment 9 to the 2024-25 County Provider Agreement for Community Mental Health Addiction Treatment, Recovery, Prevention, and Problem Gambling Services? Will that suffice as a...
Do we have to have a number in it?
Or do we have to have a number?
Script if you...
I couldn't find it in mine, so yes, hit me with it. Thank you.
Better pass it to me when you're done.
Okay. So isn't that what I just said?
It's just a little different because it says the county provider agreement.
Move to approve Amendment 9 to the 2024-25 County Provider Agreement between Clatsop County and Clatsop Behavioral Health Care, extending services through December 31st, 2025, and increasing the total contract amount by $1,336,310.91, and authorize the county manager to sign the amendment.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded to approve Amendment 9 to the 2024-25 County Provider Agreement. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 I think I heard.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much, Amanda.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving to the public hearing, ordinance 25-09, Goal 18, Beaches and Dunes, page 96. This is the time set for a public hearing on ordinance 25-09. County Council, we may have the the first reading of the title, first reading of the ordinance by title only.
This is ordinance number 25-09 in the matter of an ordinance repealing and replacing Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan Goal 18, Beaches and Dunes, amending Law Deck Article 5, Special Purpose District, and adopting the Beach and Dune Overlay, Active Dune Overlay, Construction Setback Line, Dune Morphology, and Shoreline Access Inventory Maps.
Great, thank you, County Council. And David Cook, Planning Manager, can we have the staff report?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. I'm David Cook, Planning Manager for the Clatsop County Community Development Department, and tonight I'm going to be presenting Ordinance 2509, which is an update to the county's comprehensive plan, Goal 18, Beaches and Dunes. Your commission may recall that our department began the effort to update the county's comprehensive plan goals back in 2019, and as of today, we have 3 goals remaining to be updated, with Goal 18 being one of them. Staff's goal with this update is primarily twofold. Firstly is seeking updated mapping. So our current mapping is in poor condition, poorly digitized, or in some cases not digitized at all. And so we want to create digital maps that are going to live in perpetuity and are not subject to destruction by use of paper, which has happened. Our mapping data for this effort has predominantly been gained from the State of Oregon's Department of Geology and Mineral Industries in their 2025 report on the beaches and dunes of Clatsop County. The second major goal with this update has been to ensure that the county's Goal 18 policies are updated to be in conformance with any requirements of state and federal agencies that may have been imposed since the last time the goal was updated in 2003. Your agenda packet has a breakdown of the new and existing policies. And while a lot of the policies we are bringing to you today are existing, maybe minorly word changed, but still primarily just an existing policy, there are some key areas that are wholly new that I'd like to draw your attention to. In conjunction with the Oregon Fishermen's Cable Committee, we have prepared policies related to cable landings, of which the county currently has 0 policies or standards for. Our proposed policies balance the protection of our coast and its adjacent areas with the potential future need for additional cable landing locations along our coast. Over the course of this project, staff met with members of our technical advisory committee, which included staff from state and federal agencies, as well as local community groups. We hosted multiple in-person and virtual public meetings to gain input from community members and hear their specific concerns. We brought this item to your board a couple times in 2024 and once earlier this year in 2025 to get specific feedback from your board on some key policies. And staff feel that the ordinance that we've prepared today reflects your board's values. The Clatsop County Planning Commission voted unanimously to recommend your board adopt Ordinance 2509 as presented here tonight. Staff's requested motion tonight is to move to continue the public hearing to October 8th, 2025. In the meantime, staff is available to go over the ordinance, answer your questions, and gain any feedback that could be used to revise the goal ahead of the October 8th public hearing. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, David. Do we have any questions for David? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing on Ordinance 25-09. Does any commissioner have a conflict of interest to report? No. Not seeing any. Look at the board. Are there any members of the, okay, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. Are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person?
No, there are
Doesn't
not.
look like it. Okay. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing on Ordinance 25-09. And I see Commissioner Webb, you have your hand up. Commissioner Webb, do you have a comment before we make a motion?
I do. I do. I want to say that I think that we are, particularly as I look at the other coastal counties, no other counties actually, well, I can't really say that on the West Coast, but nobody else has the Columbia River. Has a river, lots of rivers. I mean, and I'm not denying the importance of all of what happens when a river flows into the ocean. But nobody has the Columbia River flowing into the ocean. And so I have been questioning this along the way. But I'm so pleased with the information that I don't think David Cook mentioned it, but Crest was a partner in this exercise, and I think they did a terrific job. And I would also like to point out that, you know, cities have their own deal with the ocean, and the county has just other deals that are, and so this package I thought was marvelously explanatory. And I think when we put it on to to our web maps, it's going to be, I think our citizens are going to understand much more about what we're calling, of course, in these issues about flooding, but sea rise is coming with climate change. And so a lot of this data, a lot of this information is not stagnant. It's not today, it's tomorrow and forever. And that we need to take this very seriously. And I think it's just excellent data. And I think it's going to be a continuing issue in our zoning on the coast as sea level rises. And so I think we need to be, I think all of I was so pleased that the staff took seriously the cable landing issue, because it turns out, I don't think any of us knew 5 years ago that there was an organization that had been studying cable landings for years and knew a lot more about it than we did. And so we have that information now. So all I can say is, you know, as a planner who loves maps, et cetera, I'm really pleased with the work that went into this goal. I think it's excellent. I do think we have a challenge about the FEMA buy-up. But I also think that this is such good work that when we challenge the FEMA buy-up, we've got really good data and conclusions to back us. And so I'm really pleased to see this. I think it's excellent. I think it's something we need to be very proud of. So thank you.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Webb. I take a little issue with not knowing about the organization with the Cable Landing Committee. I was there when they founded about 20 plus years ago, and Scott McMullen was actually there with all the fishermen.
Oh, how wonderful.
Actually formed that committee. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, shame on us.
That was a while ago.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No.
Because their work
No
has been
worries.
fabulous.
Yeah, they've done a great job. He
Yeah.
does a good job.
Oh.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to continue the public hearing to October 8th, 2025.
A second.
Do we have? Okay, moved and seconded. We continue the public hearing on this matter to our October 8th, 2025 meeting and conduct the second reading at that time. All those in favor signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. Anything for the good of the order? Are we ready to adjourn?
Yes, sir.
All right.